This is breaking news. I just saw it on ESPN. Bill Walton has just passed away at the age of 71 due to cancer. This came out of nowhere, to be honest. I was just thinking about Bill Walton the other day with the news that the NBA was going to be back on NBC. And I was thinking, is it possible they could bring back Bill to NBC? Because I was thinking of how comedic it would have been just to have him back after all these years. Granted, I had known about his struggle with health the last several years. He had a bunch of health ailments that kind of limited how many games he could do. But I was thinking that somehow, some way, NBC could make it work and bring him back. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. My relationship with Bill is kind of funny as a fan of the game, in the sense that I grew up watching the NBA on NBC during the 90s. I started watching basketball during the early 90s as a kid. Bill was one of the premier faces on the NBA on NBC. He would do the halftime shows, the pregame shows, and he would also do games at times, depending on just the way that they were going to use him that week. The thing about it was that as a kid, I couldn't stand him. I thought he was annoying. I hated how he would criticize all these players that I liked. I would be like, hey, shut up, Bill. You don't know what you're talking about. You say some of the dumbest things. I remember being a Spurs fan in middle school way back in 94 and the Rockets taking out the Spurs. That was actually in 95, but the Rockets taking out the Spurs in 95. For those of you hardcore basketball fans, you know that series. Olajuwon embarrassed David Robinson, humiliated him. And I remember Bill had all these funny out of the world things that I thought were stupid at the time, where he would say like Hakeem Olajuwon is like Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Bill Russell all rolled in one. He's all three of them in one. And I'm thinking, even at that young age, are you crazy, Bill? How can you be saying this? This is nuts. You're nuts to say all this stuff. And I didn't realize that Bill wasn't serious, obviously, as a kid. I didn't figure that out until I was a young adult during the early 2000s in college. And there's this one moment that cracked me up. I was in the TV lounge of my dorm. Back then, you had TV lounges at the dorms. I don't know if you still do, but it was a big deal because it had like a 50 or 60 inch TV, which wasn't that common back then. Very few people had those types of TVs at home. So it was not the flat screen like we have today, but a box 50, 60 inch TV. And there was like several couches you could sit in the lounge. And I would go to the lounge every now and then when there was a big NBA matchup, because there were people down there. It was fun. There were a bunch of guys sitting at the lounge, and they were just telling Bill Walton to shut up, and they were going off about how much they hated him. I don't know why at that moment I started laughing, because I kind of enjoyed Bill being this troll and getting underneath their skin. I still remember there was this one time I remember watching a game of LeBron in high school in the TV lounge, and it cracked me up in the sense that Bill Walton was saying something about LeBron should go to college and how education is important. And he said something, well, I valued my college education even more than going to the NBA. You could always go to the NBA, but you can never, ever take back, your college experience. It was much more valuable than playing in NBA. And then the guy doing the game with him kind of looked at him like he was crazy. And all these guys were just outraged when he said it. They all screamed at the top of their lungs, like, shut up, Bill. I don't know. It just made me laugh. And I actually started enjoying some of the crazy things he said, because I thought, like, man, this guy can't be serious. He's just saying random stuff for random stuff just for the heck of it, just to have fun. He's having fun. That it just cracked me up. I thought it was hysterical. I was a Spurs fan. One of my favorite moments was back in 2003 when the Spurs shut down the Staples Center. It was Game 6. Tim Duncan outplayed Shaq in that game. It's one of the greatest games of his career. No one talks about it, but to me, that game was legendary. And I remember Bill Walton being impressed by Tim in the game. And it's like, Tim Duncan is doing it all. He's doing whatever he wants against the Lakers, and he's doing it against the greatest defender of our era, and Robert Horry. Just an amazing day. Tim Duncan just scored again against the whole entire Lakers organization. This is the greatest day in Spurs history. This is the greatest day for Popovich. This is the greatest day ever for the Spurs. Just is amazing. And I just remember laughing and chuckling at that. It was it was too funny, but this guy was hysterical. Like, I just remember just some of his phrases like, throw it down, big man, throw it down, throw it down. Just it was very fun, and just that it was great entertainment. I'm definitely gonna miss having him around. I'm just disappointed because even though he hadn't done the NBA in years, it was fun hearing him do even the college games on ESPN every now and then. He did it, just the crazy stuff he would say, and just man, like to me, he will always be remembered more for his commentating than the basketball player because he was way before my time. I didn't get to see him play, but I think to a generation of people, especially elder millennials and some other millennials, depending on where you were born on the timeline, Bill Walton was a guy you remember from your childhood during doing the NBA games. So yeah, man, just I am disappointed he passed away. Granted, 71 is not really what I would consider young. Granted, average age in America for men, well, when it comes to lifespan, 76. He missed it by 5 years, but he lived pretty much a full life of years. Thinking about it, he got to do it all. Just he had a rich life, and definitely he'll always be remembered as the guy on NBC, the guy we woke up to doing the game. So that's all I have to say about it.